Hey, JD here. Welcome to the Mead House. You know, over the past several years, we've brought you over 125 episodes of mead making, education, information, and entertainment. More than 80 guests have stopped by the Mead House. Professional mead makers, medal-winning home mead makers, competition organizers, experts on yeast and honey specialists have all visited to share their knowledge. The Mead House is produced for home mead makers and brewers looking for a bit of inspiration and information from the many guests and discussions we have here at the house. You can help support the Mead House by joining the Mead House Keyholder Club on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com and search for the Mead House. There's also a link in the show notes. For as little as $2 a month, you can become a keyholder. We've teamed up with some great companies to provide thank you gifts for your support. So get on over to Patreon, join the Mead House Keyholder Club, and get your own set of keys to the Mead House. Hey, you can listen to the Mead House podcast with your favorite player and be sure to rate us 5 stars on iTunes or your favorite listening venue. Mead House. Mead making entertainment you just don't want to miss. Hey, welcome back, and welcome to the Mead House, and thanks for listening to episode number 145. You know where to find us: iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, iHeart, and a whole lot of other places. They're all listed on the front page of the website, themeadhouse.com. The Mead House is produced for home mead makers and brewers like you and me, looking for a bit of inspiration and information from the many guests and discussions we have here at the house. Talk to us. We're on Facebook and Twitter, both at The Mead House, or you can just email us at info@themeadhouse.com. Jeff and Ryan are both in the house. My name is JD Webb. Hey, in this episode, what happened since episode 144? Well, I got something to say about ducks and the amount of Kleenex I used. Jeff has, he caught the same thing, but it sounds like it went to his stomach. And Ryan put about 500,000 miles on a Delta Airlines jet over the break. Hey, in segment 2, the New Year's brewing resolutions and revelations, Ryan totally does a redo, including moving Mead House north to a new location. Jeff is considering reducing his brewing calendar since all his kegs are full. And me, well, I'm refining my project to include just a basic, simple recipe, and we'll go from there. In segment 3, if we get to it, Facebook friends, this is where we try to answer questions with no formal expertise other than what we've experienced in our own brew room. Hey, all that and more here at the Mead House. But first, thanks to all the Mead House key holders who just keep on keeping on. You guys are really helping us out here, keeping the podcast free. You too can become a Mead House key holder and help support the show for as little as $2 a month. We've got some great thank you gifts to send out to you. Get on over to patreon.com, search for the Mead House, or just click on the link in the show notes. What are we drinking tonight? Ryan, I have no idea what this is, dude. Ryan and I met up here, how long has it been? A couple, 2, 3, 4 weeks? When was it?
Probably a month ago now.
A month ago? Yeah, it seems like
maybe not a month, but probably 3 weeks ago.
Seems like a month. You brought over a little gift bag for me, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. In it was this lone bottle. There's no label on it. It had a silver crown cap. It's quite carbonated. It's kind of a hazy golden yellow. Kind of a goldenrod poppy color, I guess. I have no idea what this is. It's got some hops. I can smell the hops. Take a taste. I have no idea what this is. I bet Ryan doesn't either.
It's a braggot.
It's a braggot.
A braggot. I think you'd get a little bit of, if I'm remembering correctly, which one I gave you, now 3+ weeks ago. It might be a little bit of citrus in that.
Yes.
You might be picking up a little bit of citrus. It was made with the Omega Yeast Lithuanian farmhouse Jolveru, which is supposed to have some lemon pith qualities.
Yes.
And that it's just very simple. That's just a very simple. I think it's 50% Pilsen malt, 50% I want to say orange blossom honey. And then probably some citrus hops, maybe some citra hops, and that yeast. And I think that's about it. And I probably used some more. I can't remember which batch that is now. Either just priming sugar, corn sugar, or maybe some more orange blossom honey to bottle carb it. But that's what you're looking at. It's not, by the time you got it, it wasn't super fresh, so it might have mellowed just a little bit. But that's kind of an everyday drinker braggot.
By God, it is. I'm telling you, this is one you want to sink deep into the cooler and take it with you to the beach, dude. I mean, this stuff is outstanding. This is the kind of stuff I look to make here in 2020. This is absolutely perfect, Ryan. I do get the citrus, like you were saying. Don't know if it's lemon or not, but I get kind of that pithy taste. I mean, it could even be a lime for all that matter. But the citra hops shine through just brilliantly. I mean, this is the kind where you got to have at least a 6-pack, because you're gonna finish one bottle and immediately reach for the next. This is really good.
Well, thank you. And that's the mark of a good one, right? Is if somebody finishes and says, "Thank you, I'll have another, please."
That's it.
And yeah, I mean, I know Jeff's going to talk about his the way he likes to reshuffle his brewing philosophy, but I kind of find that the sweet spot for my braggots is sitting right about 6%, somewhere between that 5.5% ABV to 6% ABV, and that's right there. So there, a 6-pack, maybe you might be doing it. Hopefully, you had a big steak dinner before you had a 6-pack, but on, it's okay to say, "Thank you, I'll have another, please." When they're sitting right there at 5.5, 6% ABV.
Oh yeah, this would go perfect with burgers and fries. Absolutely. In my other glass, way back a long time ago when we went to the Valkyrie's Horn. God, when was that? Seems like 10 years ago, but it wasn't
September.
September, yeah. I came home with a bottle of Prairie Rose Meadery. I think you pronounce this Marquess. This is
right.
Yeah,
it's made with the Marquette grape, but they couldn't use the word Marquette grape on the label, so they had to change it a little bit.
Right. Yeah. It's a red grape mead. And I tell you, Susan Rude up at Prairie Rose has got it together. She had several samplings of stuff that she's made. She brought to the after party, one of the after parties there at Valkyrie's Horn, and this is one of the ones that I had tried there. Asked her if she had a bottle, and luckily enough, she did. So I got a bottle from her, brought it home, put it on the shelf, and forgot about it. And so I'm looking on my shelf thinking, okay, what am I going to drink tonight? I had this thing from Ryan, and I'm pulling bottles out. I'm looking at labels and stuff, and I thought, oh, what's that? And here sits this Prairie Rose Meadery. Now, I can't drink this whole thing tonight. My wife will kill me because she likes this stuff too. But this stuff is light. It's very, very I don't know, what would you call the sweetness? It's not real sweet. It's very not dry, but not overly sweet. I mean, this stuff is really good. It's not like grape juice sweet. Just drinks like a red wine almost, like a very light red wine. It's got a very nice flavor to it. I highly recommend this. I mean, this is a good little after dinner sipper with a little plate of cheese even. Just enough sweetness to get you past that savory, some nice cheddar, some British cheddar cheese, English cheddar, Even a nice slice of Vermont cheddar would go good with this. Anyway, that's what I'm drinking tonight, guys. Hey, Jeff, you've always got something interesting in your glass on our show. So what is it tonight?
So, as usual in Mead House fashion, double fisting it tonight. On the topic of having too many kegs full, in my right hand I have a tall glass of my Belgian Golden Strong Braggot. You guys got a little sip of the early part of that, I think, at the Iron Bee. I sent you guys a little bottle of that, and it turned out real nice, even in an early phase. Some of those esters have mellowed out a little bit, but some of the honey is coming back real strong in this, I think, too. I'm getting, especially like on the aftertaste, just that nice honey kind of, it leads right into the alcohol finisher there. We're going to talk about my braggots, I feel like they are a little too strong. I tend to make them in the 10% range and need to calm that down so that I can drink these a little bit faster. But this may be one of the better braggots, if not the best braggot I have come up with yet. It's got, a good malty character with some caramel notes. It's got a good honey presentation. There's some esters in there that are all, playing nicely. Everything is kind of just nicely in balance. Just the slightest hint of hops. It has been aging a while, and those have faded a little bit, but it's not hurting my feelings any here. So really proud of this one, but it is time to drink this up. In my other hand, I have a this is a commercial bottle, and this is not a mead. This is a Boulevard Brewing Company's Brandyland. It's a limited release spiced imperial stout aged in apple brandy barrels. And I looked at that and kind of went, my mind kind of folded or did a little twist or something like that. Like, stout?
Kind of odd, huh? Yeah, apple brandy.
Yeah. How does that work? And it turns out it works really well. You get a little bit of the apple flavor right up front, and it kind of lingers there as some of those roasty and toasty stout notes start to take over. This feels like a big beer, and at 12.4% ABV, yes, it's a very big beer. So I'm going to be a little bit toasty tonight, but that's okay. The two flavors of the stout and the apple brandy actually, they marry really well together in a way that I am frankly really surprised by. So I may look at doing some little like oak additions with something other than bourbon, whiskey, stuff like that. Maybe throw some apple brandy or some other spirits in there and just see what we can play with. That seems like a fun way to add some flavors. That's what's in my hand here.
And I think stouts are kind of forgiving that manner too. I've experimented with different flavors and some stouts, coconuts, the bourbon and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I think stouts are kind of forgiving in that manner. I think that's a good, that's kind of a good beer to play around with, I think.
Yeah, I think that there is a level at which it plays nicely with fruits that I don't give it credit for. I think you're right, because I've had a number of coconut stouts and porters this winter season, and I know, like Ryan made that really interesting stout that was carbonated with cherry juice that worked out really, really well.
Yeah.
I think these stout grains are actually they do play very nicely with fruit. So that's something to consider, right?
Very good. Very good. Ryan, dude, I know you. I was looking at your list, and I sympathize with you, dude. I hate moving. And I was going through your notes. Dude, what are you drinking tonight? I mean, out of all of that stuff on the rack, okay, what the hell are you drinking tonight?
Well, I guess you could say I'm double fisting because I've got a glass in one hand and the bottle to fill it up with in the other hand.
You should have a half a dozen glasses lined up in front of you with a bottle behind each one of them.
Yeah, perhaps. Tonight I'm drinking a rosé. made with Grenache. It's very nice, very it's light, but it's not overly delicate. It's very good. It's a good drinker. Frankly, I'm drinking it because it was open and needs to be consumed tonight. Now, what's more interesting is what I've had the last couple of nights, and I'd rather talk about that for a minute. I'm sure that all of us have had folks come up to them or contact them and say, hey, try this. I made some mead or, something. I want you to try it out. And I like doing that. I like trying things. I like giving people feedback, if they want it. But I'm hesitant to sometimes drink it on the show because you never know unless I know the mead maker and the mead maker who, knows I'm going to like it or knows me or I know that I'm going to like what they make, that kind of thing. Well, last night was one of those experimental opens, of one that somebody gave me one that I didn't know. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. I don't have the mead maker's name. I don't know if he wanted me to advertise it, frankly, but, it was an oaked buckwheat vanilla mead. And wow. It was fantastic. I mean, when you hear that, you're like, well, there's about 18 ways to screw that up.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic. It was a buckwheat honey, single honey, buckwheat honey with vanilla, and it was oaked. And it was unbelievable. I mean, he must have spent $50 on vanilla because, vanilla ain't cheap. And
not anymore.
Yeah. And so there was a bunch of vanilla in this. The buckwheat honey was coming through. The vanilla was right there. It wasn't overpowering, but it wasn't so faint you couldn't find it. And the oak in there was noticeable without being like plywood. And this guy just hit balance on all of that. The oak, the buckwheat, the vanilla was magnificent. Wow. Really good. Before that, I had one of Steve Fletty's meads, and Steve Fletty made a sour mead. I don't know what he did with it exactly. I don't know exactly all the things, but it was like cherry pie. It was like a cherry pie crust.
Oh, jeez.
Just fantastic. So not like the puckery sour. It's not what I mean by that.
Yeah.
I mean, the quote unquote wild yeasts or souring yeasts, or I should say bacterias.
Yeah.
And it was also very good. I mean, it was strong, but just that jumped out at you. It was, it was very, very good. And JD, to your point, you said the stuff that you had said you needed a 6-pack of. I think I had a 6-pack in the fridge. I think there's maybe 4 left of those. So I'm gonna might have to dip into one of those a little bit later. But yeah, it sounds like we've all got some good drinks here. We all got a few different stories here of what we've been doing on hiatus. JD, do you wanna?
Yeah.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. Mine's going to be kind of boring because I didn't do a damn thing. We started off on our regular 2-week hiatus and over the holidays. And so mine starts with this little bit of a cough. Okay. Nothing serious, for the first week and a half or so. And then it just persists. It just keeps on, and progressively things started getting worse. And it kind of developed into a cold. And I thought, well, damn, there goes my holidays. And it just got worse and worse and worse to the point where I just could barely get out of bed. I just did not have any energy at all. I've got a fermenter full of one of these Ryan cleanout projects full of berry something or other. And it's still in there that I had started before Christmas. Okay. So here it is a month later. And so I just did not have the energy to do a damn thing. Just I mean, I couldn't eat. I quit eating for like 3 days, 4 days. Just nothing tasted good. Well, slowly but surely, it started to overcome me. And one night, things got a little bit serious. I mean, I could not breathe. I couldn't sleep at night. I was awake for like 3 or 4 days. I could not sleep at all. And one night, it just got so bad that I couldn't breathe. And before that, for a couple of days, I have this little oxygen concentrator that I have to use when I fly on airplanes because I can't breathe. There's not enough air. My oxygen level falls down around 88 or so, at high elevation. So I have this oxygen concentrator with a little cannula thing that goes up in your nose. You've all seen them at the hospital. And so I plugged that in, and I was, breathing on that thing at a couple of liters an hour. And I just felt like I could not breathe. I just could not get enough air. So one night things got really bad. I mean, really bad. I mean, I just rolling over in bed and I would be completely out of breath. And so I called the wife and I said, sweetheart, I think I need, she was down at UCLA, and I said, I think I need to come down there and check into the emergency room or something. I can't breathe. And so we talked for a little while. We decided, well, let's hang in there until morning. And when she got home, we'll see how bad it is. And so I was awake all night. I mean, I was just sitting up in bed. And finally, she got home, and we were calling doctors, trying to get in to see a doctor. And of course, can't get a damn appointment like right now, today. And wound up going to this clinic that is connected with UCLA. All my insurance is through UCLA. And so I'm talking to this. I'm talking to this nurse practitioner. Okay, you're not talking to a doctor. This is like a nurse practitioner. Okay, kind of a little bit more than a nurse, but not quite a doctor. And so she gives me the goings over and disappears and goes talks to the doctor on call. Comes back and says, you have I can't even say the damn name. Something going on with my heart, which I knew it wasn't that. Okay. And I said, no, it's not that. So wound up making some more calls, finally got a hold of my cardiologist, went down and saw him that day, or the next day rather. And turns out I had pneumonia. Okay. And I had it really bad. And so he put me on some, like, I don't know what kind, I don't even know the name of these antibiotics, but there's some kind of super antibiotic. He said, take 2 of these today. At the same time, the next 4 days, take 1 pill a day. Well, by the 3rd day, dude, I was feeling like $100. I mean, I was ready to go. I don't know what the hell it was, but everything was coming together. I was feeling better. It's like, all right, let's go. And what a turnaround. But that pneumonia, dude, I mean, I was just set back. And so consequently didn't do anything over my break. Had to call off that one night. We were supposed to come back and do a show. Had to call off. There was just no way that I was going to be able to do it. And then, of course, Christmas dinner. Our Christmas dinner was on the weekend when my wife was home because she worked on Christmas. And we had roasted duck. Let me tell you, and maybe I think Jeff will attest to this too. Ducks are better seen in ponds than in roasting pans.
Are we talking duck or goose?
Well, goose. Goose.
Because goose is a different animal.
Yeah, goose. Yeah, not ducks, goose. Okay, goose. We had what we thought was going to be our Christmas goose. I mean, we raised farm animals on the farm and everything. We raised ducks. We didn't raise geese. So I had no idea what goose tasted like. Believe me, take it from me. Geese are better seen in ponds than in roasting pans. So, but we had a nice. The stuffing was great. The vegetables were great. The wine was good. So that was our Christmas dinner. Other than that, okay, we had a good time on our when I finally snapped out of it and came around, we had a pretty nice time. So Jeff, how was your Christmas, dude? You had what I had, but it went to your stomach, I hear.
Well, it started in the respiratory system, and then it came to the stomach. And honestly, I probably had 3 different bugs over the course of this 5-6 week break because, I got a kid in kindergarten, and even when he's on school break,
Oh yeah.
There's still a little bit of carryover and incubation period because, man, I feel like I've done very little but work, sleep, and go to about a half a dozen Christmas parties between my family, my in-laws, my work, and my wife's work, and you guys know how it goes.
Oh yeah.
The end of November to the end of December is just busy, busy, busy. We had our very last kind of let's goof off and drink and just be silly evening with a couple of our friends for the end of the season. Not a Christmas party.
Yeah.
Just this past weekend. So I think my social obligations are done. Yeah, man, my what I had started with the respiratory thing, and that honestly, I think right there knocked me out for a day or two on what was supposed to be one of my days off. I just spent most of that time in bed, asleep, and not doing much of anything. I got a stomach bug like a week later, and then another stomach bug about a week and a half after that again had me just laid up for 2 days straight, not doing much of anything but sleeping and getting up for crackers, bread, and to drink more water and use the bathroom. You combine weird random sicknesses with it's just that time of year where I get hit hard with the seasonal affective thing, and my energy level sucks, my mood sucks. I have to force myself to go to these holiday parties some days. It's just like, I've been under a little bit of a I don't want to say a dark cloud, but just kind of been wanting to be left to myself and just I'm gross, go away.
I hear you.
I
hear
so
you.
yeah, I didn't get a lot of brewing done.
Yeah.
My to add to all that, my as far as Christmas goes, I usually do a Christmas Eve with my in-laws, and then a Christmas Day with my mom's family. And this year, about a week before Christmas, we got a little ice storm. My mom slipped and broke her arm at the wrist, both arm bones. And had to go in for surgery. And she is still in a cast and is probably going to be in a cast for another 4, 5, 6 weeks. She's doing some PT finally, just trying to get some movement back in her hand and her wrist. But yeah, she was not able to cook Christmas dinner. So in a moment of probably poor thought on my part, I went, I'll just do it. I'll do it. I'll handle it. So I made our usual our Czech national dish of pork roast, sauerkraut, and potato dumplings.
Oh yeah, that sounds
yeah. It came out really well. I brought a nice bottle from Sap House to share with the family, and I think it went great. I never give my family enough credit when they're spending all day in the kitchen making food, and I just get to show up and eat it, and it's a lot of work, but all things considered, I'm really happy with how Christmas went, and we'll talk about resolutions and things like that and stuff in a little bit. Let's send it around the table to Ryan.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll come to the rescue here.
This is kind of depressing so far, right?
Yeah. I was doing quite a bit of traveling. Pretty much the whole month of December I was on the road. And every city I went to, I try to do things unique. I've had to travel quite a bit in my career, and a lot of times it seems like you go from the airport to the hotel, to the conference center, or wherever, and it doesn't really matter what city you're in because that's all you see. But I try to make an effort when I can to get to see things in cities, and especially cities I've been to a lot. Try to find something a little bit different. So, I was in Chicago, which is a city I've been to 1,000 times and know extremely well. And I had to spend a few days in Chicago, and I knew on the south side of Chicago there is a monastery. Like monks live at this monastery, and these are monks. These are cloistered monks, and they do what's called ora et labora, so work and pray. So they try to live their whole, or pray and work, and they try to just be really self-sufficient. Like they go to the doctor or the market if they need to, but the whole point is just like living at this monastery and having it be self-sufficient. And I went and I checked it out. You know what I saw there, guys? You know what these guys, these community of monks are what part of them doing and keeping self-sufficient. You know what I saw there?
Mead.
Well, not maybe in its raw form. Beehives.
Beehives.
Yeah.
These guys are keeping bees on the south side of Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Not sure what the flora is that they're picking up down there, but it was actually really interesting. I talked to one of the monks a little bit, and they said it was their first year of keeping bees. It was something they were trying out. Then I asked them if they had any plans to start brewing with it, or doing any brewing. And I thought maybe I'd get lucky there and try some Trappist, American Trappist ale or something.
There you go. Yeah.
But
I think you mean American Trappist Braggot.
They weren't brewing. They weren't doing any brewing. What's that, Jeff?
I said I think you mean American Trappist Braggot.
Yeah.
Which
right.
sounds freaking awesome.
I mean, I just wasn't sure what they were doing. But anyway, so that was pretty interesting. That's something I hadn't done in the previous, all the times I've been in Chicago is seeing that. And it was, I hope they do. I hope they keep making mead. And like you said, I hope they turn it into an American Trappist Braggot. That would get me back to the south side of Chicago. Other than that, probably a White Sox game is the only other thing that would. And so let's see. Then I was in Lincoln and Omaha, Nebraska, two of the cultural cosmopolitan cities of the Midwest. I'm delivering pretty deadpan. Didn't have much time in there. Got a steak. I was in Omaha or Lincoln. I don't know which. I was in one of the two. I mean, I was in both, but I don't remember where I was. But when I got a good steak. You figure in Nebraska, you better get a good steak.
Yep.
So I did that. That was delicious. And then I was out in Southern California for quite a while, and I flew into San Diego, and I had meetings in San Diego, in Orange County, and then up into LA. And prior to meeting JD on one of the earlier days, I was in Fullerton, California, and just kind of, I think Fullerton's pretty much on like the Orange County, LA County border.
North.
I don't know my geography that well, but I think it's pretty much right there. And went to a brewery, and they had this, they call it like a pollinator ale. And it was a blonde ale with a lot of honey, a lot of local honey, they said. And tried it out. It was okay, but it frankly kind of left me wanting, like a lot of the other honey, using air quotes here, honey ales or honey beers that you get from a lot of the breweries. Because, I mean, I don't necessarily blame them. They're not trying to make braggots. They're not, they don't have probably the money to put, a drum of honey in a commercial fermenter. But it was okay. And then I got to spend some time with JD. Now this was interesting. I had a meeting that was supposed to end very close to JD, like downtown LA, basically Koreatown. It's basically the meeting was like on the border of downtown and Koreatown. And to get there, to get up to JD from there, no big deal, no problem at all. However, that meeting got flip-flopped, like the day of, with a meeting in Laguna. So all of a sudden, I'm in Laguna, and now I'm going to go meet JD. That's 100 miles away.
Yeah, 100.
LA.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people, depending on where you're from, if you know LA or not, put it this way, the southern tip of what you could call like metropolitan LA to the northern tip of what you could call metropolitan LA, just north, is like 150 miles. That's probably, I'm guessing here. I'm not being a little liberal,
Well,
but it's probably 150 miles. And so, it's kind of one thing, if you're in Chicago, even if you're a big city like Chicago, and you say, oh, I'm on the other side of Chicago, you're not talking 150 miles. That's like Milwaukee to Chicago, maybe even less. So all of a sudden, I'm 100 miles away from JD, and I said, well, by God, I'm going to make it there anyway. So I'm in rush hour. I'm in LA rush hour for 100 miles getting up to JD. and we had dinner at this amazing little Mexican place and tried some very good tequila and had a lot of good fun there. Well, I get home, and as JD was mentioning, the Meat House North the original Meat House North is closing up shop next week. It is it's closing up shop, keys on the counter and out the door, and moving the Meat House North down the road to a bigger, better, shinier, newer facility. But I didn't want to move full carboys, and I had full carboys and full fermenters. So I had to bottle up 8 carboys. I had 8 carboys and fermenters sitting around that needed to bottle. And I bottled all those up. I finished last night.
Oh my God.
And got them all in the bottles. And actually, I ran out of bottles. I called Matt Whitey and said, Matt, can you spare me some bottles, brother? And he dropped off, 2 partial cases of bottles. Thank you very much. And I was able to get everything in bottles, and by the end I was done. I think I had less than a gallon of stuff that I ended up kind of dumping out just because I had no place to put it and I didn't want to mess with it anymore. But that's all moving over, and that led me into our New Year's brewing resolutions, revolutions,
Yep.
revelations, epiphanies, whatever you want to call it. Who wants to? Should I keep going here? Or
No, let me.
Want to take this one?
Yeah, let me chime in here because mine's kind of short, sweet, and to the point. And then we'll go to Jeff, and then we'll go to Ryan because Ryan's notes were like 2.5 pages long when he said. So my New Year's, and I kind of took the one little key point from one of Ryan's little notes. Brew to drink. That's my resolution, plain and simple. I've got 7 kegs now. Each one of them are filled with something different. And each have different tasting notes. Some are good, some bad, some really bad. And some of those really bad are just awaiting the big pour down the LA sewer system. I try to do my part. But brewing to drink, I have no more glass carboys. Well, I shouldn't say that. I've got one of the port meads is still in a glass carboy. And I still have a 3-gallon carboy with the leftover from the one that's in the 3-gallon oak barrel, the other port meat. So Those are the only two glass carboys I have. The rest of them are gone. I threw all the 1 gallons away. I'm not doing any more 1 gallons. I figure if I can't get it done right in a 5 gallon, it'll go down the drain too. I'm tired of the clutter. I'm tired of the messing around with all this stuff, and I really got to start cutting back a little bit because I've got the two twins sitting on the shelf over here behind me, and I used to keep them both full. It's like, dude, that's like 10 gallons of stuff. Okay, that's 2 kegs. Well, I've got, like I said, the big Keezer holds 4 kegs. The small one holds 2 kegs. That's 6, and they're all full. Well, actually, they're not all full. Some of them are half empty, 3/4 empty, and then I've got 1 extra keg that is full, sitting outside. It's got stuff in it that I put in it like 6 months ago, sitting on CO2, and so I'm scaling back. I'm trimming down my recipe. I'm going to start with nothing but a base recipe, 60% malt, 40% honey, and then whatever adjuncts I want to add later on in secondary. The honey will always go in at high Krausen. Now, I might add some flavorings in along, with the honey, or might even do something a little bit different. Some of the candy sugars and whatnot work best at high Krausen, that kind of thing. But I'm not going to do any of this big berry stuff anymore. If I want to do something that's got some kind of a berry flavor or whatever, dude, Amaretti is the way for me. I want small, neat, nasty. I mean, that's it. I mean, I just want it simple, to the point. And, a little bit of that Amaretti goes a long ways. I'm tired of trying to calculate displacements. 40 pounds of fruit versus a 7-gallon carboy or a 7-gallon fermenter. How much liquid do you actually wind up with? No more of that. So I'm done with that. So that's basically what I'm doing. And then I love the keg thing because I can go from the fermenter into a keg. If I want to add adjuncts there, I can let it sit, in the kegs. If I need to transfer from keg to keg, that's easy as pie. I'm also converting all of my kegs over to the clear beer system. I cannot recommend that enough. If you're a kegger, okay, and you're tired of dealing with the crap on the bottom, the first couple of pours, sometimes out of the tap, or this filthy, dirty, stinking little trubby little garbage looking glass of beer or whatever, the clear beer system, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Let the crap go to the bottom and let it sit there. And the clear beer, it siphons off the top of the keg, not the bottom. So all the kegs are being converted over to clear beer. And what else in my notes here? Let's see. I think that's about it. I mean, the hops. Hops is a no-brainer. I mean, I like experimenting with the hops. You got choices there. Hop back. You can do it in the boil, dry hop, all different kind of things. So that's my deal for the new year. Jeff, you've had some revelations as well. What are your resolutions?
Much in keeping with, I think, what you're going to hear from all of us. I want to brew a little less this year. I have, like JD has already alluded to, I got 5 kegs sitting on my back porch in the cold, because that's more than I can keep in a kegerator, but I can keep them all cold in this weather. They're all full, and they're not getting emptied fast enough. I'm brewing whatever comes to mind, and it's not getting drank up. We have friends over on a semi-regular basis. I always have something out for them to drink. But my ambition seems to exceed the consumption of myself and my friends. And realistically, I need to scale it down to the point where I can, kind of keep a relatively close, what goes in comes out and things like that. Replace as it gets drank up and not build up, build up, build up. Because in addition to those 5 kegs, I've also got like 3 milk crates full of different sized bottles and random things labeled from the last 4 years of experimentation and random stuff I put together. And then another like 9 gallons, which you've heard my sob story about the winter so far and how little energy I've had. That they have needed racked and bottled and stabilized and back sweetened and things like that, and it just hasn't happened yet. I've got too much product for me to consume at the rate that I am making it at. So I need to slow down. My major goals for 2020 are going to be, I'm going to have 1 seasonal brew per season that is going into a keg. I may continue to do a bigger traditional or a kind of something wine strength, whether it's a Pyment or a mead. But my wife really likes to have an actual wine bottle to give somebody, like, hey, thanks for feeding our cats while we were out of town this weekend. I'm sorry your grandma died. Here, have a bottle. Congratulations on this or that. Here, have a bottle. Thanks for inviting us over to your dinner party. Here, have a bottle. We do that. Yeah. And, people appreciate it. At least our friends, they drink it. And sometimes, to whatever extent it amazes us, they save it. They're like, oh, we want to save it for a rainy day. We want to drink it for something really special. No, just drink it. Enjoy it. Get somebody you like. Share it. But, yeah, get that drink up. So I may keep doing that because it's nice to have those bottles for sharing or for gifting on hand. And we are a little bit low in that regard at the moment. Inexplicably, with everything else that I'm apparently not drinking, we've been giving away quite a bit. So, if anybody has been listening to the show, you guys know that I love experimenting and I love my little 1 gallon random batches.
Yep.
But I'm honestly thinking I may take a page out of our buddy John Duncan's book and start not doing gallons and start doing quarts. Because I think if you guys recall, I did a Lactomel, which was the whey from a goat cheese, 2 or 3 gallons worth that I made, and I took all that whey, the leftover liquid part, and then I added a ton of honey, and then I fermented that. And that finally cleared at some point, the last time that I was messing with stuff, and I was like, oh, wow, I should really do something with this. And I'm thinking I need something very sweet to kind of counteract that because it tastes like something that got really, really kettle soured. It's got a lot of lactic acid going on, of course. But, when I make a batch like this, I either wind up with 10 beer bottles worth or 5 wine bottles worth, and it's a random interesting thing that I will drink a bottle or 2 of, and then it goes into the milk crates that I already mentioned I have 3 of, and it's like, what the hell, guys? So the wisdom of doing a single quart of something like that, where I go, okay, well, that's 1 bottle's worth. That's a good night's worth. That's hey, guys, try this random thing that I made at some party, and that's it. That's all I have to deal with.
Yeah.
There's an appeal to that, I think. I've got a couple random ones that I've been looking at, especially like some more historical ones. I think I talked to you guys about a Thalassemia, which is a mead made with seawater. So it's going to be a salty mead.
Interesting.
And that sounds weird. And it's probably going to taste terrible. And I'm probably only going to want 1 bottle of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay. The other thing that I'm thinking of when it comes to changing up my mead and braggot making routine is I need to dial down the ABV to keep these drinkable because I make a ton of these monster braggots that are in this 10 to 12% range, and I'm not in my 20s anymore. I'm barely still in my 30s. Um, I have a good pint-sized glass of one of these monsters, and I'm pretty much done for the night. I get a good strong buzz going and go, okay, I'm good.
I'm good. Yeah.
I'm happy. Yeah, I'm. If it's a long night and I've got a bunch of friends over, I might tap that a second time, but that's rare. So that, if you think about it, a 5-gallon keg holds 40 pints. That's a minimum month and a half to get rid of a single keg. I need more lawnmower style meats. I need stuff in the 5 to 6, 7% range.
Yeah.
So I think apart from, I'm going to have to figure something out for a nice, a nice winter beer next time around. But I had that hop blueberry last spring that was really nice. Some lighter ABV braggots, something kind of in the vein of that great hop grapefruit that Adam Bystrom made that we had sampling at Iron Bean and then again at Vikings Horn. I think that's more my speed this year. I'm probably going to be playing with some Pymonts as well because I've got a bunch of stuff sitting around, especially like the homebrew store that I work at decided to stop carrying the Alexander's grape concentrates last year, and I brought a ton for Ryan and JD at Iron B. I also have a ton for myself, and I've not used all of it. So I'm probably going to play with those and do some nice light Pymonts coming up here, or something along those lines. But yeah, I gotta lower the ABV and just make stuff that's drinkable and that I can enjoy without going, okay, I've had one, I'm good. That's all I need.
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. I'm with you on the ABV thing. The older I get, I can't do the like you. I haven't seen the 20s for 40 some years now, so I can't even remember them anymore. So, but yeah, like you, I need to tone down the ABV stuff. I enjoy my bourbons and tequilas. But if I get a couple fingers every other night or so of one or the other, that's about it. Beyond that, I just can't do that stuff anymore. So, but I'm with you there. Ryan sent. We're all trading notes back and forth today on what our revelations and resolutions and thoughts were to talk about on the show here tonight. And, we're hoping our listeners might get something out of what we're talking about here. We're not talking some real exciting stuff here, but, there comes a point in a brewer's life where you just accumulate a lot of crap. And that's kind of the road that I think a couple of us gone down already. Ryan talked a little bit about it, a minute ago. And but if you're taking something out of this show, more power to you. And Ryan's got a lot going on, dude. I mean, this dude, he's got a move coming. Let's preface that to say that he's got 3 kids under the age of 6. One of them is just a year and a half, and what a sweetheart. But he's got this move coming up. He just talked about 8 carboys full of stuff that he had to bottle up because we all know how Ryan's history with glass carboys in the past. We won't go through it here. You can check out some previous episodes where we've talked about it a few times. Ryan, you got a lot going on, dude. And you've made some pretty good resolutions here that I think some of our listeners might even sit up and take note of. So tell us about a couple of them.
Yeah, well, JD, you actually bring up a really good point of life state. I think that um, one of the realistic things you need to do is evaluate your life state and put into perspective when you see people like, say, on Facebook or Reddit or any of the forums talking about what they're doing. Somebody might say that they've got a laboratory testing equipment set up in their guest room, or they've got 38 different varieties of single source honey, or things like that, or they're doing 8-hour boils, or on their braggots or things like that. And to my point, like, if you're saying, if you've got 3 young kids or something, or if you're working 2 jobs, or if you're wherever you're at, just don't try to compare yourself to the Joneses. Try to say, how can I make that work, or how can I adjust my brewing to fit my life state, and not think I have to keep up with what anyone else is doing. So, when you're bottling 8 carboys, and remember, I bottle everything. I seldom keg. I put my stuff in bottles.
How many bottles in a carboy, in a 5-gallon carboy?
Oh, in a 5-gallon carboy depends. Maybe you figure
at least a couple of cases.
Maybe
right?
two cases, so maybe about roughly 48 12-ounce bottles, or
just
maybe 20, half of that, a little ish if you're doing bombers or 750s.
I just wanted to toss that out there. I just wanted to toss that out there for our listeners, because they all heard you talking about bottling up 8 carboys. So go ahead.
Yeah. So JD, to answer your question, in a 5-gallon carboy, there's roughly 2 cases of beer bottles, or maybe 2 cases of wine bottles. So roughly 48-ish bottles of beer, 12-ounce bottles of beer, roughly 24-ish bottles of wine per 5-gallon carboy. So you can do the math on 8 of those, and like I said, you've got a little bit of time to think and reflect, and over all this time, because you got to wash the bottles as well, and clean and sanitize between batches and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, my first resolution is streamline. I have bottles. I have Crown Cap bottles. I've got wine cork bottles. I've got Belgian cork and cage bottles. I'm streamlining. I am going to stop using probably a lot of my cork bottles, and I am just going to go to the cap and cork. I'm sorry, the Crown Cap bottles, and I'm not going to do and even to streamline further, I'm not even going to do the Belgian Crown Caps, or the larger Crown Caps that you find at like some of the Belgian beers.
Yeah.
I am just going to go straight to the standard, Crown Cap bottles, even for my still meads and my wines and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You've heard me say it before, but a lot of winemakers will tell you that there's no reason to cork anymore. How many wines do you see in the liquor store that have just the twist-off bottle, twist-off caps? A lot of the winemakers, they say the cork is aesthetic, and frankly, it's because people, especially if they're making nice wines and they're spending a lot of money on a bottle, they expect there to be a cork there. But no, there's, preservation with the Crown Cap is going to be just fine So I am going to streamline. That's number, kind of example there is going to crown caps. Another streamline. Now this is kind of what I was talking about, like the life stage. Is I'm going to go down to maybe a couple malts, maybe one or two malts, and maybe one or two honeys at a time, and not have to worry about managing massive ingredient stores.
Yeah.
So, for example, Pilsen malt is my bread and butter. I'll probably have a Pilsen malt, and then maybe a Munich malt, or maybe something like that. And then, sure, of course, I'll use some different steeping grains depending on what I'm making.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe, frankly, I might just do Pilsen altogether, all in, and then just start building off of the Pilsen malt and saying, here's some black malt, or here's some different crystal malts, or things like that to streamline. And then I've got a couple of different honeys that are the bread and butter. I really like some white clover honey that I've had from like Montana, some good California orange blossom, or some things like that. Some like Arizona mesquite honey, or things like that. So I probably might have one or two honeys that I'm kind of using over and over again, and just trying to streamline those ingredients to say, look, what I want when I need to make mead or when I want to brew, it's going to be easy to say, I've got my one base malt, I've got my one base honey, maybe I've got some other steeping grains or some other, adjunct honeys, maybe a jar of my lavender blossom honey or something like that I want to spice it up with. But really, really streamlining is kind of number one here.
Yeah.
Number two is right sizing my brewing. So I didn't want to say downsize, but I want to say right size. Now, when you move, you realize how much stuff you have, and I had
funny how that works.
Two fermenters that I was using, and then of various sizes, of the big carboys of various sizes. I had 10 of those, and then I had about 24 of like the gallon or less.
Oh, geez.
So, like 10 of the big carboys and 24 of the 1 gallon or less carboys. And the problem with having those is that and that's not even my fermenters, that's just, the carboys, or the primary fermenters. And the problem with having them was that I kept them full, or I a lot of the times they were full. And so I'm trying to right size that and get down to what I really need. And I need a fraction of that to do what I want to do right now. And so being conscious of that. And by the way, anybody listening, I had all those in the Minneapolis, Twin Cities area. The reason I had all these little 1 gallons was because I liked doing little experiments, and I liked doing, if you're going to do competitions and you really want to dial in, a lot of guys and gals will like break off into little 1 gallon jugs and really dial in like 1 gallon of it, to make for competition.
Yeah.
And just keep tweaking, at that level. And I've got about a dozen of those left, a dozen of the 1 gallons left. So if anybody really wants to get into experimenting or competitions where you're going to need that level of dialing down, give me a call, shoot me an email. I've got a dozen left. I move in a week. I'd love to get them to you very reasonably. The next one is brew to drink. This is number 3. Brew to drink. I said brewers weren't made for mead. Mead was made for brewers. I said, probably like many an upstart brewer, I quickly started brewing exotics. And some of it is really good in small quantities, infrequently. But what are you going to do with the other 4.5 gallons that's been sitting there for a while? A when I loaded up and took down the wine rack and took everything off the wine rack, and I had some other cases that weren't on the wine rack. I had almost 40 or roughly 40 cases of stuff that I had made. And
oh my
that
God.
that I had to take with me. What really got me was that I'd always shake my head, and when I look at the wine rack after certain batches were gone, and I'd say, look, mead everywhere and not a bottle to drink.
Yeah.
Because it would just kill me that I had all these bottles, but the stuff that we drank frequently, it wasn't that. It wasn't there. That wasn't the stuff that I drink on a regular basis, or the everyday drinker. So again, brew to drink. I said, and now I'm taking a model, and applying it to my brewing going forward. And it's called the 70-20-10 approach. And the 70-20-10 approach. So 70% of what I brew is going to be the everyday drinker, the stuff that you like. The braggots I know I like, the melomels I know I like, the sizers I know I like, the piments I know I like. The 70% of what I brew is going to be the stuff I know I like. 20% of what I brew is going to be iterating on that stuff. So making really small tweaks. I call these safe bets. So to use the example of Jeff, talking about the stouts, okay, I know that I can dial in a really good stout braggot. And now let's make a safe bet off of that.
Yeah.
Maybe, we want to make it a coconut stout braggot. Okay, I've done that. A banana stout braggot. A cinnamon stout braggot, or a cherry stout braggot, or things like that. So little iterations of things that are kind of safe bets. And then the last 10% of what I brew is going to be the true experimentals, or the wild and crazy stuff that's okay to moonshot on. It's your moonshot. It's okay if it fails, because 70% of what you brew you liked. 20% of what you brew is kind of iterating on what you like, kind of making these safe bets. Hey, I know I like the coconut. Maybe I'll like it as a banana, or a coconut banana, or something like that. And then the 10% of trying that crazy stuff.
Yeah.
The fourth, and I'll say this fourth and final brewing resolution. This is in two parts, so 4A and 4B. Kind of. I think I might have said this before. This reminds me of the Rodney Dangerfield movie Back to School. And he's kind of get that oral exam at the end of the movie, and he's like, question 1, part C, subsection F.
Yeah.
Part D. 4. Anyway. So number 4 is it's not new, but it's a continuation of my waste not, want not, and part A of that is that I can break up my brewing career into two halves. Kind of the first half, where I was learning the craft and practicing the craft and getting good at the craft, and the second half is when I was able to produce a very good results. So I know that a lot of the stuff I've made in the last few years has had complexity, depth, balance. Not like 100%. I'm not, nobody shoots 100% from the free throw line. Nobody gets in the batter's box and bats 1,000.
Yeah.
But or the 3-point line, I should say. But anyway, that second half of brewing, it's more often than not, it's good stuff. The first half, a lot of it is some of it was bad, and it's really not around anymore. But the other stuff is technically good, but it's just maybe a little bit one note, or a little boring, or things like that. And so what I call those are my sangria bottles, and I make those into like cocktails, and I'm resolved here to use those up once I get in the new house and move and get all that done and start throwing parties and things like that, is using a lot of that stuff up and just saying, okay, you know what, we're gonna, making these mead cocktails or these sangrias and things like that and punches and just using those up. So, waste not, want not. And then number 2 is just, again, I had to inventory all my ingredients, my cans of Alexander's that I had, my, spices, my fruits, my extracts, my compounds, all of that stuff. And really just, before I buy anything else, of using all that stuff up in conjunction with my 70-20-10 approach. And doing, using the cocoa nibs, using the pomegranate extract, using the Alexander's, Syrah, and just making sure all this stuff gets used up. So those are my 4 brewing resolutions for the year. Again, it's streamline, right size, brew to drink, and waste not, want not. But JD, I hope that people can take something away. If you have 2020 brewing resolutions, revelations, anything like that, shoot them to us. We'd love to hear what you're doing, and we might just get something from it ourselves and read it on the air. So please send us your thoughts for 2020.
info@themeadhouse.com, or just a lot of people have been using a messenger deal over there on that Facebook thing. Or you can just send us a tweet too. Both the Facebook deal and the Twitter deal, both at the Mead House. Or like I said, the email info@themeadhouse.com. Thinking about what Ryan's been talking about here with his resolutions. I don't have any plans on moving anywhere, but I do have to trim down, slim down, or whatnot. And along with Jeff, I brew too much to drink, dude. Even my neighbors can't drink at all.
And ambition exceeds the capacity of my liver. It's a curse. Yeah. And I've probably got more resolutions coming too. I'm sitting here looking at my kitchen like, my God, I've got, over the Christmas holiday, I acquired a waffle iron and 2 more cast iron pots and pans and all this other stuff. And
kitchen stuff.
I brew in my kitchen. Yeah. So I'm looking around at my counters now. I'm like, this is a disorderly mess, and I need to do something soon. So there's probably more that needs to be coming out above and beyond just only brew what you're going to drink and only brew the capacity that you can consume.
Or plan on storing it away for a while. I mean, I started out with, my first kegerator was just a 2 keg. It's just a little like an apartment sized refrigerator. Okay. Mm-hmm. That I built a wooden top on it, and it's kind of cool. It's single tap, but it holds 2 kegs. When one was empty, I just flip it over to the other one. But that wasn't big enough. I got 2 full fermenters going at the same time. This ain't going to be big enough. So I went out and bought a giant, chest. Well, it's not giant. It's big enough to hold 4 kegs, a chest freezer. Okay. Now that was a 4 tap. I'm soon to add a 5th tap, and put a wine, it's actually a wine tap, where the keg actually sits outside on a very, very small pressure, that you can actually serve, like a red wine out of. So, at some point you got to go, okay, that's it. Enough. And I'm at that point. So like Ryan, I intend on slimming down, trimming down. I already got kind of an early start. Like I said, I've been talking about getting rid of my glass carboys. I'm there. I just got one more to go, and I'm done.
I'm also in that ballpark. I've only had 4 to go with in the first place, and I use one at a time, if at all. It kind of rotates between the 5er and the 6er, and there's 2 more sitting in the shed. I'm not using these guys. I need to just get rid of them. Let somebody that's going to use them use them.
Well, and I'm sold on the keg because I just got sick and tired of listening to Ryan talking about the broken carboys over the last couple of years. So I thought, okay, I got one. I'm okay. I'm gonna get wise here. How do you prevent broken carboys? Put everything in a keg. So that's a no-brainer for me. My old and feeble hands are getting pretty gnarly with arthritis, and I don't know how much longer I can hang on to a full freaking glass carboy. You know what I mean?
I hear you. And talking about streamlining your operation, it occurred to me a couple months ago, and I've yet to put this in place because I just haven't had the opportunity to yet. But I have basically like 2 different workflows when it comes to bottling, whether I'm going to do something still or whether I'm going to do something carbonated. Because, God, it must have been a year and a half ago now that I got the beer gun from Blickman.
Yeah.
And that's an awesome tool. I really love using it. It's all stainless steel and silicone, and it's easy to clean. It's easy to work with. But if I'm going to do anything that's still or it's not pressurized, well, hell, what do I do there? I go back to like the basic, the auto siphon with the little bottling wand or whatever, and I fill that way. It occurred to me a couple months ago that I have a single keg that, for the life of me, no matter what I try with it, I can't get it to consistently hold pressure. It will hold pressure for a little while, but not very long. Mm-hmm. And what I'm going to do is just clearly label that this is my bottling keg. So when it comes time to bottle like a wine strength thing or a mead or a kit wine or whatever the heck that I've decided to do, I'm just going to siphon it into there, put it under pressure. I'm going to use my beer gun to bottle a still wine off of that keg.
There you go.
And that way I have one single track for bottling. Everything works. I could just, clean it real quick and easy because it's not going to be sitting in that keg for very long. I just need a little serving pressure to get it into bottles, and I'm done.
Check your O-rings on the keg and get yourself some either some beeswax or there's a food grade wax out there. Yeah. It's a non-petroleum product, and use that on all your O-rings and seals.
Yeah, I've replaced the O-rings. I've replaced the lid even. Yeah. I went as far as to replace the lid. I think, honestly, it's just old, really old, and that seal on where the lid meets the top is kind of misshapen. So there's just a very small hairline gap that even keg lube doesn't fix. So I'm going to work with it as is and just use that for my bottling keg.
Well, let's try to tackle a couple of Facebook friends here. Of course, this is the section where we try to answer some questions based on no formal expertise other than what each one of us has experienced in our own brew house. Ryan, you sent quite a list along. There's a couple of them here that I really want to get to before we run out of time here. One, this first one, the proper way to sterilize oak spirals before adding them to my Big Berry Mel. You familiar with that one?
I am. I answered this on Facebook, but just for everyone else here, we talk a lot about oak, and you'll see, I think in the last couple of years, maybe, you've seen a lot more people adding oak because oak can be used in any mead, just even if you don't want that oaky quality, just to help add some tannin, round it out, and give it a little more depth. So adding oak, and I'm air quoting oak because there's so many different woods that you can use now, from hickory to cherry to cypress to everything else. But oaking can be the word we'll use for it. Those they are packaged in a sanitary or I should say with I don't know if sanitary is the right word here, but maybe let's just a good clean, pretty sanitary environment. And I think they're purged. They're nitrogen purged or oxygen, something in there when they put those in the bag in there. And so it's the way that I handle it, and you guys jump in on how you handle it too, is that I don't worry about sanitizing the actual spirals. What I do is I wear gloves a lot, like latex gloves or a non-latex glove. Sometimes when I'm sanitizing, because like certain sanitizers will really dry out my hands and make them kind of uncomfortable. So I'll put on the gloves when I'm dealing with sanitizers a lot of times, and all I do is I make sure the gloves are sanitized. Spray them down with a squirt bottle of Star San or Sani, whatever it might be, and then I just pick up the bag, maybe sanitize the bag if you really want to be careful, like the way you would a yeast pouch. And then scissors, maybe just sanitize the scissors, and cut that bag open, and then just take the spiral right out of the bag and put it right in the carboy. And as long as everything that's touching that is clean or sanitized, again, it was okay going into that bag, that there's nothing that I do to the actual wood itself when I take it out. Now, I know some people have said that they think that the wood is too harsh, or they, just coming right out of the bag, or they want to be safe. So they will put it in maybe a mason jar or a bowl with some neutral spirit or some whiskey if they want to get a whiskey flavor, or say vodka, for example. They'll just kind of douse it in vodka, and then they'll put it in there. You can do that, or they'll say, I store mine in vodka for a week or something, and then I put it in there, or I boil it really quick and then I put it in there. I don't do those things. I've heard that people say they do them more than just for the sanitizing. They do it just to kind of soften the harshness of the wood, but I've personally never found that to be an issue. What's your guys' protocol for handling those spirals?
I just dump them right into the carboy or the keg.
Same.
I don't, if it's something that I want to flavor, I've got a number of quart jars that I have with different bourbons and whiskeys in. I'll put some cubes, or, if I got one tall enough, or sometimes I just break the spiral in half and just put both halves in a quart jar and, top it up with some bourbon or whatever. I'll do that. But here's the trick with dealing with bourbons and whatnot. I mean, the wood's only going to soak up so much. These guys that leave these spirals in there for weeks on end, all you're doing is flavoring the whiskey at that point. Okay, those oak spirals are going to be saturated with the liquid within 24 hours. Okay, the wood is not that thick; it's pretty porous, and that's going to be that's a pretty good sanitizer. I mean, you're dealing with 40% alcohol, 50% alcohol in some cases. So I'll do that. So if I know that I want a flavor, but other than that, I don't. They, like you say, Ryan, they come prepackaged in a sealed package, and I think a lot of these wood products are actually toasted after the fact. I don't know that a lot of these products are actually made from already toasted wood. So there's a sanitizing process that takes place at that point. If you're going to toast a piece of wood, you're going to basically kill anything that's on it already. So that's my take. Jeff, toss it over to you, bud.
Honestly, I've so many of the products that I have put oak into, products. Brews that I put oak into have been above 7% ABV. That I've kind of been of the opinion that north of that 7%, it's going to kill anything incidental that's going to be on there anyway. So much like Ryan, I take the basic idea of I'm going to sanitize the package, cut it open, and just dump it in there. I don't put a lot of thought or effort into it. In the case of like the beans, the cubes, whatever you want to call it, I leave those in the package, and at worst case, I weigh those out and toss them in there. Whenever I'm weighing stuff out, if it's not a liquid product, I use a single use like coffee filter as my medium, so I'm fairly certain that that's more or less clean and sanitary. I really don't put a lot of thought into it.
And then there was another one on here, Ryan, that I saw that I thought one more. We've got enough time for here. This one says, I have space that I would like to turn into a dedicated brewing, mead making room, taking into consideration fermentation. What are the ideal temperature targets for such a space? Do you recall that one?
JD, you're reading my mind, because if we had one more, that's the one I was going to
pick. Yeah. We've talked about temperature controls and whatnot for the actual fermentation here, but I don't know that we've spent a whole lot of time on, say, ambient temperatures other than a mention when we're talking about certain yeasts and whatnot. But go ahead, Ryan.
Well, here's my take on this, and I'm going to come at it from a little bit of a right angle, or a left angle, if you want to go the other way. Is to say that depending on his situation, I don't know his situation, but a lot of people, if they have a room that they want to turn into a brewing room, it is what it is. The room is what it is. Now you can spend a lot of time and a lot of energy, or you can buy a lot of expensive equipment and try to create the climate that you want in there. Whether you're adding insulation or ventilation or heaters or chillers or whatever it might be. You can absolutely do that. And if there is a yeast that you want to use that needs something just right, then that's what you can do. Here's the angle that I'm going to come at this with. Instead of spending all that money or time and remodeling and gadget buying and that kind of thing, get a really good read of what the temperature is in that room. Maybe it's one temperature all year round. Maybe it's one temperature in the summer and one temperature in the winter, that kind of thing. But just understand what the temperatures are. Then find the yeasts that like temperatures that in that range, because that's going to be easier. You're not going to have to fight it. You're going to save yourself a lot of money, and you can. I've made good meads at every temperature. I've made good mead at lager temperature. I've made good meads at 110 degrees, because I use the yeast that like the temperature. So if you're telling me that you've got a room that the room that I was brewing in here in Mead House North Original OG, in the winter it's kind of funny. In the winter it was warm, in the summer it was cool. So in the winter, the room was in kind of the upper 60s or low 70s, and then in the summer it was usually in the low 60s, low to mid 60s. And that's not too much of a change, but anyway, but I found yeast. I just used yeast that liked that temperature range, and I didn't change anything. I didn't worry about heaters. I didn't worry about chillers. I didn't worry about insulation and ventilation and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I do. If you have a room that stays at 58 degrees all year or 62 degrees all year, there are a lot of great yeasts you can use that love it right there. If it's 70 degrees, no problem. If you've got a shed, a greenhouse that stays at 110 degrees all year round, we got a yeast for you.
Yeah.
So, that's my angle on it. That's the way I'd look at it. I'm more pragmatic in that sense. What do you guys think?
I don't know this guy's name. I'm gonna call him Bob. Bob, it depends on how much money you got, guy. I mean, if you got a lot of money, if you just got money to burn, I'm thinking an insulated room. I'm not talking like, that regular house insulation. I'm talking about refrigeration insulation. I'm talking about a refrigeration unit that sits inside, maybe a cutout, in a wall, like an air conditioner. Something that's you can control the temperature up and down. You can make it, like Ryan talking about lagering temperatures, 40s, upper 40s, low 50s, sometimes even down in the 30s if you want to cold crash something. But for the rest of us who may not have that kind of a checkbook, I'm going along with Ryan. I don't know that so much attention needs to be paid to the room itself as much to the fermentation container more. I live in Southern California. Now, we keep the inside of our house right around 70, 72 degrees all year round. So that means running the air conditioner 24/7, usually about 9 months out of the year or better. So I don't have a problem because I've got a pretty good setup. Chillers on my fermenters. I can even hook they're stainless steel. I've got blankets or these heater things that are attached to my fermenters. I can crank the temperature up above 100 degrees easy and ferment at that temperature. So that's a no-brainer for me. But with Ryan, I got to go along with him, dude. Bob, there's yeast out there that will perform well at virtually every temperature range you can think of. One of the best that we came along, that we've talked about here on the show a number of times, is out of the Omega Yeast Vault. It's a Kveik yeast, ferments it. Actually, they have a couple that ferments in excess of 100 degrees. I think we had one of our guests one night, Jeff, who, what did he say, 110 degrees or something?
105, 110, yeah.
I think it was Paul Johnson at 110 degrees made it. You'd think you were drinking a citrus melomel, and it was just a traditional because the thing threw so many fruity esters.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you got the checkbook to customize the spare room and to making it a just state of the art mead brewing room, hey, have at it. But you don't have to do that. Jeff, what's your 2 cents, bud?
If you ask me, the question you need to ask yourself before you answer what temperature I need to ferment at, or what temperature I need to keep the ambient room at, or what special equipment I need. What do you want to drink? What do you want to drink? Do you want to drink like the wine strength meads that are more like wines? Do you want to drink session meads? Do you like the fruity esters in the Kveik? Figure out what you're going to consume. Like JD said, we got a yeast for you. There's the Kveik yeasts work great, and honestly, I've got a little probably $12 heater running on the one fermenter that I've got running right now for a wit beer for the springtime. That's keeping it at a pretty constant 90 degrees, even when my temperature in the house runs to 66. It's a pretty easy way to run things.
Yeah, like I said, I'm going to be pragmatic with this. You can spend $6,000 to get the temperature just right, or or you can spend $6 on a package of yeast.
Yeah.
And
Right.
save the $5,994 and take the wife on vacation to the Maldives.
There you go. Hey, we're going to leave it right there for this episode. Welcome back, Cotter. Hey, thanks for listening and hanging out with us tonight. And hey, don't forget, let us know what you're brewing, and we might even give you a call. Or you can just email us, info@themeadhouse.com. Send us a message on Facebook or Twitter, both of those at the Mead House in the meantime. Hey, happy mead making. That's it for this episode. Brian flipped the lights off. Jeff slammed the door shut. Hey, we'll be back next week with episode number 146 of the Mead House. Gone.